Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to North Chapel on this beautiful, cold, bracing March morning, Sunday, March 23rd. My name is Michael Zsoldos, and I am your service coordinator this morning. I'd like to just, I have a few announcements here before we get started. If you could, if you brought a cell phone this morning, could you make sure that it's turned off or silenced before we begin? I'd also let you know that for those who need them, there are large print hymnals on the back table, should you need those. And on the other back table on this side, there are hearing assistance devices, should you need one of those. There are a number of announcements in the order of service, including soup. We're going to have soup with Ken. This is the final Sunday of soup. It's a super Sunday this morning. Not that they all aren't super, they're all super. And it's a lentil soup, I'm told, right? Mary said that it was a lentil soup. Lentil curry and pea carrot. It sounds sumptuous. We are lucky to have Ken doing that for us. I have some announcements. This one is from Dave Cook and Richard Schramm, who are leading a caregiver gathering on Tuesday, March 25th at 4 o'clock in the library. The announcement says, if you are currently helping someone struggling with a mental and or physical health challenge and would like a chance to share your experiences with others in similar caregiving circumstances, please come to our gathering. This will be a chance to not only share your stories, but also to identify other ways the North Chapel can support you and those you're caring for through a difficult time. Everything that's shared will be treated as confidential. So that's on Tuesday, March 25th at 4 o'clock in the library. Mary, you had an announcement, yes?
Good morning. This is the second week of our spring bulb fundraiser. So usually we have bulbs in the fall, but these are things like dahlias and blazing stars and columbines and really beautiful things that we can order. And it lasts until the 15th of May, but we've been encouraged to put our orders in early in case they run out. And we're doing several group orders so that you don't have to pay the shipping, or you only have to pay a part of the shipping. So if you look in your order of service, there's information about the website and our number that gets us to our page. And they're also at the back of the church and down on the bulletin board below in the social hall are order sheets. So you can fill those out. I'm going to put in an order tomorrow. So if you get the order sheet to Joanne by tomorrow, I will put in an order. And if you can't do it this week, we hope you'll do it next week. Thanks so much.
Tatum is here and will provide spiritual education for the children. And finally, if there are any visitors this morning who would like to stand up and say hello, say where you're from, we'd love to hear from you. If not, that's totally fine as well. But is there anyone visiting who'd like to say hello? Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm Dana Siegel. I'm here to
Oh my God! I think she might be a friend of Leon's.
My dad saved Leon at Tufts University, so I've known him my whole life.
Oh my goodness, well welcome. We're so glad you're here to share this Sunday with us. I have a story to tell this morning though. Back in December, my friend Ben Van Vliet, who is a violinist and the director of the Upper Valley Music Center, invited me to write an arrangement for the UVMC orchestra and community choir in the children's chorus for their 30th anniversary of the Upper Valley Music Center, which was celebrated last Sunday. Ben and I have been performing together for 17 years, and we've played dozens of concerts, and he's been playing my arrangements for many years, but I had never written for orchestra before. So I said yes without hesitation and spent the last 2 weeks of December dreading that. Have you ever said yes to something before you knew what the scope of work was? Ann McSude? Have you ever done that? Oh my God, talk about preaching to the choir over there. So I gave myself a deadline of February 1st because nothing happens unless I have a deadline. And I spent the first week of January feeling like an imposter until I finally faced down my imposter syndrome and listened to the song that Ben wanted me to arrange. I've Got the Music in Me was recorded in 1974 by the Kiki D Band. Kiki D, for those of you who remember, she sang with Elton John on "Don't Go Breaking My Heart." Right? She was the part that went, "I couldn't if I tried." Right? Yeah. There you go. Good. And as I sat and played through the chord progression, I started to get drawn into the piece. I didn't like it at first, I have to admit, but I got into it. And once I started doing that, I started liking it. I started giving myself permission to mess around, alter it, and then I altered the meter until I found myself in 9/8 writing a completely original theme. I built in the time to play around with this arrangement long enough until two themes emerged. Once I had the melody and the melodic responses to those themes, I started harmonizing them and then assigning them to the four families of the orchestra: the woodwinds, the brass, the strings, and percussion. And once I started doing that, I could take a breath and stop freaking out. I was gonna be okay. Next, I transcribed the vocal lead and the soprano, alto, and tenor parts of the background vocals, and I produced the choral score. And then that was done. And then finally, I transcribed the guitar, the keyboard parts, and the string parts, and 5 revisions later, I had a full score. I had 2 rehearsals with the orchestra at Lebanon High School, and 1 full dress rehearsal with the 2 lead vocalists, choir, and the orchestra on the Wednesday before last. The morning of the concert, we had a 3-hour recording session, video and audio, and that will be available eventually on YouTube, and they're going to use that as promotion for the Upper Valley Music Center. But what was the big takeaway here, the big picture, the big lesson? The big lesson was I came away from last Sunday, completely awe-inspired by the level of cooperation, focus, commitment to excellence, self-sacrifice for the greater good by everyone involved, by all of the musicians involved. They put their egos aside, they showed up, and they did their best. That experience has given me courage to face all of the negativity going on in our country right now. We can and we must create community. We can and we must create community. Challenge each other to do more and grow into the challenges that face us in this moment.
your father used to sing a song called Freedom, and he would start with that motion. The one, who does that? Do, 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 ah, da, da. It's some sort of really super pop song. I can't remember who wrote it. George Michael. But he used to make that sign with his fingers. I don't know if he knew what he was doing. It might have been this, but if it was this, it felt like he was planting an I love you into the ground. Unconquerable. Man, you're dead. Out of the night that covers me black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced or cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. William Ernest Henley, Invictus. And I wonder, is that really true? Are we the captains of our soul? Is that like a given, like an immutable law? Or does one have to work for it? Does one have to fight to make sure that it's true? Do we have to sacrifice? Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Today is Sunday, March the 23rd, and the title of this morning's reflection is Love Boldly. To love boldly is transformative. Loving boldly is a revolutionary act in trying times. Love boldly because nowadays life depends on it, and if we are honest with ourselves and with one another, this has never not been true. It's always been the case. We've got to love boldly. We just have to. It's a law. It's a given. We gotta sing like we don't need the money. We gotta love like we've never been hurt, and we've gotta dance like nobody's watching, and it has to come from the heart. Now is the time to love boldly. William Ernest Henley said that it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I'm trying to figure out what that means down deep at the level of the soul. We can do this together. We can win in the deepest sense. But we're gonna need some laughter, and we're gonna have to find some joy. And we're gonna have to start by asking for help from the great artists and from the average artists too. So we need to start by getting help from Robert Frost. I think it's true what he used to say, what he used to tell us all, that two roads diverged in yellow wood. Sorry that I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And then I took the other, just as fair, and I still got stuck in the trenches and missed my friends and the pizza and most of the party because it's mud season. And I almost got stuck on the side of the road, which made me mad because I had all of the balloons for the party. They were in my car, and thank God I only had some of the beer, and the people were waiting and worried that I had to, oh, wait. I blew it. Did you see what happened right there? I think I let my trauma take over. It started speaking more loudly than my soul, overwhelming the poetry, crying out more loudly than the better angels of my nature. So let me try the poem again, this time without the head-on collision into my own rage. I can avoid that. Two roads diverged in the yellow wood, and sorry that I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, and then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had warned them really about the same. We've all heard the poetry before, have we not? Most of us have, nearly all. Most of us have imagined at some point walking down that path, or are for the first time imagining it now. We need help from the artists. They can help us to imagine the path, the painters and the poets. We need help from people like Robert Frost. And if you are like me, but wiser, as is most often the case, you're probably not yet cool enough to do without the poetry. Let's never be that kind of cool where we can be without the poetry. It's not cool to be that kind of cool. Now, did you see what I just did? I realized that I just criticized peer pressure coolness by peer pressuring you to be uncool. But I'm not joking, and I mean it. It's not ironic. I'm being straight up hypocritical, intentionally. It's not a paradox, it's just a plain old contradiction, and I'm fine with that. In this example, but certainly not in others, I am secure in my hypocrisy. Is that okay? Is that cool with you? Can you be down with it? If I promise to be honest and to be clear, if I promise to stay in my integrity, because life gets messy. It doesn't always fit into the boxes that we've created for it. It never has. I'm hoping that it's okay not just to think, but to live outside of the boxes that we've created. Is it okay to live outside of the box? Because I think that's what Robert Frost has been asking for us to do. He's asking us to live outside the box, and it's hard to do. Which way will we choose when roads diverge in the yellow wood? Which way will you choose? Or have you already made your choice? Or is it a choice that is prepared for us somehow? Has it already been made on our behalf by someone else, by external circumstances, by internal traumas that have not healed? Close your eyes for a moment, will you? See the path with your mind's eye, your soul's eye. Imagine it. Try to imagine where the yellow wood roads diverge. As your soul has imagined this place for as long as you've known this poem, what time of day is it in your imagination? And what time of year? Is it sunny or overcast? Is there a light rain or running water nearby? What are you wearing? Can what you are wearing get a little wet? Can you be distracted by relatively superficial things, even when seeing through the eyes of the soul? Are you alone on this path or with someone? Which way will they choose? Will they blindly follow you? Will they faithfully follow? Will they make the same choice independently? Will they make a different choice? Will they choose the road that you did not? This is the dilemma when it comes to choosing roads that diverge in the yellow woods. What happens when it comes to the dilemma of choosing roads that lead us all along to heaven or to hell? There's always a fork in the road, always a choice that opens before us. Sometimes it's easy and we choose quickly. Sometimes it's hard and it takes more time. Sometimes the choice is clear as a bell, but it is still difficult to make. We have trouble with clarity sometimes. It happens. It happens a lot. I probably shouldn't have that second piece of chocolate cake. I really want to have that second piece of chocolate cake. That one can go on for a while. But you get what I'm saying, right? We have trouble choosing sometimes, even when the choice is clear. We don't always choose clarity. We don't often choose clarity. Sometimes we seem to enjoy being somewhat confused. I mean, we must enjoy it, right? Because if we don't enjoy it, why would we choose it? The logic is inescapable. Only the saboteurs among us, only the saboteur within us would choose confusion when clarity is possible. That's what I believe. Strike that. That's what I want to believe. I could be wrong about that, of course. Strike that. I'm definitely wrong about that because life is messy. It doesn't always fit into the boxes. Sometimes we have to live outside the boxes, and that's hard to do. Maybe that's how it is. I don't know for sure. What do any of us know for sure these days? Do you know the song that goes, well, I've been out walking? Do you know that song? I don't do too much talking these days. These days, it seems I think about the things that I forgot to do for you and all the times that I had the chance to. And it sings, well, I had a lover. It's so hard to risk another these days. How do we make the choice of love that we need to make in life? How do we risk living bravely and loving boldly in these days? Maybe it depends on our proclivities. Maybe it depends on the kinds of car we drive, or the kinds of clothes we wear, or how we walk through the world, our swagger, how we place our feet down on the ground, on the sacred ground beneath us. Maybe it's about our boots. Maybe it's our boots that make the decisions when the roads diverge in the yellow wood. Maybe it's our baseball caps that decide, like they did in the last election. Or maybe it's our embroidered leather vests. That's the one that sounds most right to me. Since it feels like there's no free will anymore, since free will has been coded as fraudulent and inefficient and was rudely fired from its job, after centuries-long career wasting liberal time, since fate seems like the scab that has been hired in its place, predetermined, life is so much better for our businesses. But how do we make our choices? I really mean it. Are our choices being made for us by the cars we drive and the clothes we wear? Sometimes I think it's the clothes. I think it's the embroidered leather vests. That's the one that sounds most right to me. Because these vests have words written on the back of them. Words like journey on the back of them. Yeah, they leave out the spiritual part. It doesn't say spiritual journey, but I think that's what they mean. I think that's what's going on in our world right now. We're afraid to talk about the spirit, so we only talk about the rock and roll part. These embroidered leather vests, I'm telling you, they say things like Genesis and Nazareth and cathedral and King James. They say things like prayer, and they say things like heaven and salvation and nirvana. They say Black Sabbath, and they say the church, and they say Leviathan, and they say Judith Priest, and the one that really freaked me out the most, they say Peter, Paul, and Mary. I was looking for a goth speed metal punk band named North Chapel, but I couldn't find it. I wanted the whole lot of us to buy leather vests, rent Harley-Davidson motorcycles from the dealership over in Lebanon, and tool around the upper valleys with our tailpipes half removed to show all of northern New England that loving boldly is just as cool as rock and roll. I saw a cartoon recently. It pictured two young men, almost identically dressed, young fans of rock and roll. They were walking side by side along a yellow road. They both wore leather vests. They were embroidered leather vests. On the back of one of them was the name of a rock and roll band, Led Zeppelin. On the back of the other vest was another rock and roll band, AC/DC. And they were standing at a fork in the road, and one young man said to the other, "This is where we part ways." And there was no argument between them. Both young men were agreed. The signs posted at the fork of the road were clear in their distinction. The one to the left was the stairway to heaven. The one to the right was the highway to hell. For those of you who may not know, these are rock song titles recorded by these respectively by Led Zeppelin and by AC/DC. Theologians commonly disregard things like this, or are momentarily amused, but I'm deeply fascinated. I'm fascinated because so often music implies a theology. This music, these songs, present a most powerful choice. What is the decision of our community? Which way will we choose to go these days? Will we choose the stairway or the highway? Will we choose the road that leads to heaven or the road that leads to hell? And what kind of God do we believe in as a congregation and individually? Are we drawn to the idea of a God that rewards or a God that punishes? What do we think about God in general? There are many responses to this question, but I think Pete Holmes said it best in his stand-up comedy routine. He talked about his spiritual journey and he talked about the nature of God. He talked about the ubiquitous nature of holy words and phrases, things that we tend to constantly overlook. Sacred words like holiday, which was holy day in Old English. And sacred phrases that are common, like in God we trust, as is printed on money. We see this phrase all the time, but we seldom reflect on it religiously. It'd be funny if we did at the bar, at Max, at the co-op where I met you. Pete Holmes said, "My God is not an old man in the sky. My God is a metaphor for a mystery that absolutely transcends all categories of human thought, including being and non-being, but this is just too many words for the back of a quarter." That's Joseph Campbell. He explained that Joseph Campbell had said that. I got all the best teachers later in life, like Barry Taylor, the road manager for AC/DC. He said, "God is the name of the blanket that we put over the mystery to give it shape." God is the name of the blanket. I like that a lot. And then Holmes raised what I thought were two reasonable questions. He first asked, shouldn't I have learned about the blanket in church? Secondly, he asked, why am I learning about the nature of God from the road manager of AC/DC? Because the holy is all around us. Jesus said, split a piece of wood and I am there. Lift a stone and you will find me. For Pete Holmes, this was literally true. Jesus asks us to love God with all of our heart, our mind, and soul. Micah asks, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. We don't need to ask about the merits of wasting time listening to AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and the like. Doing so isn't being somehow spiritually inefficient. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The radical impulse tells us that the spirit of life is in you and everywhere around you, and everywhere you go, you carry a little piece of heaven, no matter what road you choose, the high road or the low road, the road in the yellow wood that branches off to the left or off to the right. The choice between the stairway to heaven and the highway to hell is probably a bit more consequential. Choose wisely. We can choose our embroidered vests without ultimate consequence, but we have to keep our feet on solid ground, on sacred ground. Our differently embroidered vests don't matter very much, but our boots do. They connect us to the ground of our being and to the journey of life. As if for the holy in my imagination, or perhaps to his beloved Sylvie, or to Joan Baez, his muse, Bob Dylan sings, Take me on a trip upon your magic swinging ship. My senses have been stripped. My hands can't feel the grip. My toes too numb to step, and they wait only for my boot heels to be wandering. The poet wants to keep our feet on solid ground. Dylan writes, I'm ready to go anywhere, and I'm ready for it to fade into my own parade. Cast your dancing spell my way, I promise to go under it. In the lives we lead, what magic spell persuades us these days? For me, that magic spell is this faith. Not that Unitarian Universalism hasn't broken my heart sometimes, it surely has, several times. But it has also been the thing that has lovingly helped me to heal. I want to close with one more poem, not by Robert Frost or Bob Dylan, and not by the road manager for AC/DC, but by a Universalist minister named Rick Maston, a dear friend. He's gone now, but he's still a part of me. Rick wrote a poem that was simply called A Friend. And I think this poem is about living bravely and loving boldly, and about the kind of faith that makes that possible. He wrote, if you're like me, even though you're not quite sure of the question, you go out looking for the answer. And every now and then you bump into someone who's looking good and looking wise, so you tag along behind them, picking up the punchlines and thinking, ah, damn, this one's gonna get me home. And if you're like me, you go along with them until they say something stupid or do something human, and the whole thing goes off the edge of the table and shatters like a lamp. And sometimes when it matters enough, you try to put it back together. And what you come up with is far from perfect, but it's a whole lot easier to live with. And then if you're like me, you go out looking again. Faith is like this sometimes, bright and shiny at first, shatteringly surprising, painful perhaps, more beautiful after the recovery. Unitarian Universalism is like this. Artistic excellence is like this. Spiritual maturity is like this. Not quite sure of the question, but still searching. When roads diverge, let's keep ourselves grounded. Let's keep one another grounded for the chance to know the holy, for a chance to touch the blanket, for the choice to embroider live bravely, love boldly on our leather vests. If you cannot speak like angels, or even if you can, find a way to share your love on a beautiful day. If you cannot speak before thousands, or even if you can, find the beauty in your heart enough to share. May it be so on this cold and early spring day. Go in peace. May it be so. Blessed be and amen.